Hello and welcome to Video DNA, where the English is bad and the tutorials are good. I'm Miran Tabib and today I'm gonna walk you through this scene when they take Hugh Laurie to prison and they do bad things to him and his team. And in this scene we had two challenges. First of all is to make the scene look like a prison, which obviously it was not a prison. And second of all is to change the background from this partially green screen and to make it look like it was filmed in Iran with the mountains and the cityscape and everything else. So first of all, let's go through this scene and these two shots. And I'm just gonna show you what happened in general, and then I'm gonna walk through just a little deeper on this shot. So if we're gonna go through how it all started and the footage that we got this footage. So nothing here, no fence, no nothing, no mountain over here. So this is a pretty easy shot because it's a static shot. And here we just built, if you can see over here, let's close up over here. We built just part by part this big fence and added some barbed wire. And if we go out, this is what we got in this. So this is how it began. And now we can see all the front of the prison becomes a little bit higher. And here, that's outside, we needed to put this mountain and add back the details, which is a pretty interesting layer because it's only this part of this prison multiplied. So we can take back all the barbed wire back to the scene, which is based on the original footage and multiplied on the new background or on the new mountain. So I get more details in these areas. And of course, some cleanups for this and some cleanup for this. It's not a cleanup, it's just another layer for this sign and this flag just to make it a bit dirtier. So it's not gonna be as nice. That's before and after. Let's go through this shot, which was a little bit more challenging because it was in movement and a lot of details inside the bus that we needed to bring back into the shot. So let's go to the beginning. So this is how we began. This is how we got the shot. And we need to make the fence a little bit higher, like twice as high. So you can see it over here. And to do that, first thing I did was to create this layer. And if you watched carefully on our last episode, all I did was reverse track the scene, and then I can stabilize an area and place static things on it. So all of those things, this one, this patch, and this patch, and this patch, all these barbed wires, everything is static. And when you put it inside the scene with reverse tracking, it all moves. So here it's static, but here it actually moves. So if you don't know what reverse tracking is, go back to our last episode and watch the cleanup in the second part of the episode. So we'll understand more about this technique. So once we created this higher fence, we need to build back or bring back the details of the bus that went away. So to do this, I need a 3D track of the bus, so I can create a lot of layers that are moving like the bus. So to do that, I'm gonna need a new technique. So to show you what happened in the end, and this was the base of all of this technique, it's this layer that we have like a 3D representation of the bus that we can use as an alpha layer. And of course, as a base for all the movement of all the other layers. So to do that, of course, we don't have object tracking inside of After Effects, but we can cheat a little. So let's take this layer. I'm going to show you how I did it. So first of all, I'm going to track this as a 3D layer. So I'm going to go to Track and Stabilize, Track Camera, and then I'm going to go to Advanced and check on Advanced Detail. And let After Effects work its magic. Okay, great. So we have this layer, and let's check what happened. So it thinks it's a typical movement. So I'm gonna place a solid over here and a solid over here, and let's see how they behave over time. So this looks pretty good, but not as accurate as I hoped it would be. So let's go see how the camera behaves. So I'm just gonna select everything, and I'm gonna go to View and look at selected layers. And now I can see that the camera moves and the layers are static, but it's not accurate enough. It's like I expect something around 1 or 2 pixels. So this is like a bigger than 4K. It's like 5 to 6K footage. So 2 pixels is good enough. But if I'm working in full HD or below 4K, I'm gonna expect something that is below 1 pixel. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna delete every little dot or every little track point that I have here that is not related to the bus. And it's important before we begin to do that to move to 2D source. So I can see all the tracking points, even the one that didn't have the opportunity to become 3D. So I'm gonna do this again. Select all of this. I'm gonna go 10 frames forward. I'm gonna select all of this, and I'm gonna fast forward until no dots remains. Okay, so we have this crazy track, and let's try to create some of the bus. So I'm gonna create a layer over here, and this is just as the technique that you've seen in episode 1. So I'm gonna create this layer, and I'm gonna cut a few holes through it in a pretty basic way. And I'm gonna move all of those to subtract. And I'm gonna, let's view the layer. Now it moves according to the bus movement. So I can animate it to fit this well. So let's animate, let's make a mask. Keyframe over here and another one maybe over here. And I'm gonna repeat this process until I have pretty much the basic shape of the bus. So now let's create another layer for the front. Create a solid, and let's start with this masks. And of course I'm gonna cut all of these holes as well. And let's give a keyframe right over here. Let's go over here. Actually, this looks pretty good. Maybe let's make it longer over here. So I have this part of the bus, and I'm going to do this again and again and again until I have this layer. Let's turn off those layers. Until I have all of these details. So I used the 3D camera tracker to believe the bus is static, so the camera must move around it, so we'll have the movement of the bus. And this gives me like a pretty good mat of the overall shape of the bus, which has a lot of dents and a lot of bulges. And this eventually used as a mask for this wall. So if I go to the wall comp, the bus alpha, everything I think uses it eventually. So this layer knows to not work over where the bus is. So it's pretty nice. And eventually it will help me make more layers because I have the movement of the bus. I can create more 3D layers for it. For example, I have this layer, which makes the area below the bus become a bit darker and a little bit bluer because the windows, if we look at the bus without anything, here around the windows area, it becomes a little bit darker when looking at the fence through the windows. And I'm going to do this again and again. And the layer I'm really happy about the most is this layer, which you can barely see. It's like a grid. This is a grid. And when I go inside it, I can see it's a grid that moves exactly like the bus in a 3D way. And when I created the details of the bus, I needed to bring back all the details. But the part that didn't came back was this grid around the area because I used some keying techniques like colorama, so it can bring back this area and this area. So this is what I got, but it never got to the point that I can get back the grid. So I needed to create it by myself, and just a regular grid effect that appears where the grid disappears. So it's not as accurate, but as a detail, it works pretty well to complete the details that went away when I keyed manually all these parts. So if I look at this area, you can see that the grid is different, but when it's moving, it's just another detail over there. So this helped me to bring all the wall details that was missing from this footage. So this is practically the way that we solved this shot. And after that, we have more shots of Hugh Laurie, which, by the way, he's my hero. I really like him. And I watch House. I think I watched the series 4 or 5 times. I know. I'm whacked. So, and he's talking to Mr. Taub over here. And we can see that the original footage just have some green screen over here and some houses over here. And the challenge was to make it look like you can see the skyline of Tehran. So to do this, we needed to rebuild all this area because this area was not detailed enough. So if I look at the layers that we have over here, we have the mountain layer, we have the city layer, and of course we have this wall and some wires layers. And all we needed to do was to key that out and then to blur it enough so it will blend with the footage and will look like all the other scene. So we need to adjust the blur effect according to the blur of this area, so we can have this result. And we did that for all the footages, all the shots in this scene. So I'm just gonna go closer into this shot and I'm gonna go layer by layer to show you how it was done. So first thing we needed to do was to create this mountain that moves according to the camera. And then we needed to add the city itself. And of course, this little fence and the wires that are covering all the wall over here. So after we finished, we have something that looks like this. And to make it work with all the other layers, so with this background, we needed to blur it, of course. So let's put the color correction over here. So we had to blur it. And after that, we needed to create all the covers that we needed. So we have this cover that brings back some of this wall, and this cover that brings back his head. And of course, we needed to create an adjustment layer that fixes all the green areas, not only the one that are directly from the green screen itself, but from the reflections and all the light it emitted or bounced from, and painted everything in green in this scene. So this is how we created this shot. But unfortunately, it was mostly cropped eventually. So you only see it like this. So we didn't work for nothing. You can see it, you can barely see it. But eventually, I must say, most of this work, you cannot see it in the final episode. So we were pretty sad about it because we put a lot of effort in there. So, but we still have this little details over here, and that's it. So this is what we have for today, and I hope you enjoyed this and learned a few more things. Even it was like something small, like, okay, I can delete some points after I camera track something. And I hope you enjoy this. I think I already said that. Anyway, I'm gonna see you next week. Have a good one.